I'm going to show you how to create a VM using JSON template where the password is stored in the key vault. We start by creating a key vault. Put in East USA. Now the key vault is created. Let's go in there and create a secret to be stored. This secret will be called VM pass. Now it's imperative that you go to access policy to allow the Azure Resource Manager template deployment to access this secret. I will switch over to Visual Studio. Now I have started a project with a blank template. Navigate to the JSON outline, right-click on Resources. I'll be adding a virtual machine resource. There are two dependent resources I also need to create. Select Add. Now this resource is added to the template. You'll see on top the parameter expects the admin password to be supplied as a secure string. Right-click on the project, select Deploy. Click on Edit Parameter. Now, any parameter that's marked as a secure string would have this prompt for you to choose. So this is the secret that I've stored earlier. The save would have updated the parameter.json. Now at this point, you can go ahead and deploy it as is by selecting a resource group to deploy to, and off you go. Now during this deployment stage, you will be using the credential that is signed out to Visual Studio. In this example, you'll see that Visual Studio has already signed in as myself. Now in a more secure environment, you may want to create an application ID and a key and use that as a service principal. Now when you log into Azure through PowerShell, you may choose to log in as a service principal. Now once you have a service credential created in Azure Portal, this is the commandlet that you need to solicit a credential password. If you're using password, you specify the application ID, and once you have the credential variable, you use login Azure RM account. So rather than interactively logging on as user and password, we'll be logging on as a service principal. Now the tenant ID is your Azure Active Directory tenant ID where the service principal is created. Now, if you were to use service principal, don't forget to add the service principal as a user into the access policy. Now, at minimum, the service policy should allow the access policy should allow the service principal to be able to get the secret. That's bare minimum. Now in template that we are building, so at this time I don't want to deploy it. I can always come back and deploy it. Just want to review in the parameter file. Okay. The value that I have supplied in the previous step has been saved into the parameter.json. Okay. Now in that parameter.json, you'll see that there is a password, and the password, rather than a value being hard-coded, it now contains a reference property, and the reference property requires an object of key vault. Now you will be able to find the key vault if you walk through the user interface by selecting the key vault, and this is the resource ID for that given key vault and the name of the secret. All right, so here you have it. Now right click, deploy. Select the resource group. That's all it takes.